What if I told you that some of Hollywood's biggest stars weren't loved by everyone? Behind the cameras, they were some of the most hated and controversial figures in the industry. From legendary feuds to shocking scandals, these actors' reputations almost destroyed them. But why were they so hated? And how did they manage to stay on top despite the backlash? Let's dive deep into the dark side of old Hollywood, where fame didn't always equal love. You might think you know these stars, but what happened behind the scenes will shock you. 1. Joan Crawford, the perfectionist tyrant. Joan Crawford was one of Hollywood's brightest stars, known for her unforgettable performances in Mildred Pierce and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. But off-screen, she was a nightmare to those who worked with her. Demanding, controlling, and relentless in her pursuit of perfection, Crawford had no patience for mistakes, whether from her co-stars, directors, or even her children. Her legendary feud with Bette Davis was one of the most vicious in Hollywood history. The two despised each other, and their behind-the-scenes battles on Whatever Happened to Baby Jane became the stuff of legend. Crawford allegedly went out of her way to sabotage Davis, even faking an injury to keep her rival from winning an Oscar. But the controversies didn't end there. After her death, her daughter Christina released Mommy Dearest, a shocking tell-all book that painted Crawford as an abusive, cruel mother who ruled her household with an iron fist. The revelations were so disturbing that they overshadowed her entire legacy. Could Joan Crawford's ambition have been her downfall? Or was she simply a product of a ruthless industry that demanded perfection at any cost? 2. Marlon Brando, the rebellious genius. Marlon Brando was hailed as one of the greatest actors ever, but working with him, that was a different story. Directors and co-stars described him as difficult, unpredictable, and arrogant. He had no regard for Hollywood's rules, often showing up late, refusing to follow scripts, and clashing with anyone who dared challenge him. On the set of The Godfather, director Francis Ford Coppola had to beg Brando to cooperate. He would mumble his lines, demand bizarre changes, and deliberately make scenes difficult to shoot. And yet, his talent was undeniable. No matter how frustrating he was behind the scenes, his performances were pure magic. But Brando's off-screen controversies made him even more polarizing. From his outspoken activism to his tumultuous personal life, he was a man who lived by his own rules, no matter the consequences. Did Brando's genius excuse his behavior, or was he simply too difficult to be admired by those who worked with him? 3. Charlie Chaplin, the scandalous silent film star. Charlie Chaplin may have been a comedic genius, but his personal life was a different story. His charm and talent made him one of the most beloved stars of his time, until the scandals caught up with him. Chaplin's romantic entanglements raised eyebrows, particularly his relationships with much younger women. His marriage to Una O'Neill, who was just 16 when they wed, sparked outrage. And then there were the legal troubles, a paternity scandal that led to a highly publicized court case, tarnishing his reputation. The government even got involved, branding him as un-American due to his political views. In the end, Hollywood turned its back on Chaplin, forcing him into exile in Europe. Was Chaplin unfairly targeted, or did his scandals justify the backlash? 4. Bette Davis, the woman who feared no one. Bette Davis was known for her fiery personality, razor-sharp wit, and unmatched acting talent. But with that talent came an iron will and a refusal to back down from anyone. She fought with co-stars, challenged directors, and never played by Hollywood's rules. Her legendary feud with Joan Crawford wasn't just about professional rivalry. It was personal. Davis despised Crawford, and the feeling was mutual. Their behind-the-scenes battles on Whatever Happened to Baby Jane were so intense that they nearly overshadowed the film itself. But Davis wasn't just at war with Crawford. She had clashes with numerous directors and actors throughout her career. Some admired her boldness, while others saw her as impossible to work with. Was Davis a fearless trailblazer who refused to be controlled? Or was she just as ruthless as the industry she fought against? 5. Frank Sinatra, the dangerous superstar. Frank Sinatra wasn't just a singer, he was a force to be reckoned with. His voice made him a legend, but his temper made him feared. Sinatra had a reputation for violent outbursts, powerful connections, and a dangerous temper that could turn friends into enemies in an instant. Rumors of his ties to organized crime followed him throughout his career. Some claimed he used those connections to intimidate rivals and get his way in Hollywood. He was also known for his explosive feuds, whether with journalists, fellow actors, or even members of his own rat pack. Despite the controversies, Sinatra remained one of the most powerful figures in the entertainment industry. His talent and charisma kept him on top, no matter how many enemies he made along the way. Did Sinatra's talent make people overlook his dark side? Or was he just too powerful to bring down? 6. Wallace Beery, the brutal bully of Hollywood. Some stars were difficult to work with. Wallace Beery was downright cruel. On screen, he was a lovable character actor, starring in classics like The Champ and Grand Hotel. But behind the scenes, he was violent, aggressive, and feared by many in the industry. Beery had a reputation for physically attacking his co-stars, with one of the most infamous incidents involving a young Mickey Rooney. During filming, Beery reportedly slapped Rooney so hard that the crew was left in shock. And that wasn't an isolated event. Stories of his abusive behavior toward fellow actors and even crew members followed him throughout his career. But despite his reputation as a bully, Beery's popularity kept him in the industry. Hollywood had a way of protecting its biggest names, even when their actions were anything but admirable. So why was he allowed to continue working, and how many of his victims were forced to stay silent? 7. Clark Gable, the untouchable star with dark secrets. Clark Gable was the king of Hollywood, charming, talented, and adored by millions. But beneath that golden image, a history of scandals that Hollywood tried to bury. The most disturbing accusation came from actress Loretta Young, who later revealed that Gable had assaulted her during the filming of Call of the Wild. The result? A secret pregnancy, followed by one of Hollywood's most carefully covered-up scandals. Young was forced to hide the truth for decades, adopting her daughter to prevent public shame. Gable's reputation as a womanizer was no secret either. He cheated on nearly all of his partners, using his superstar status to escape consequences. Yet his power and charisma kept him untouchable, and the public never saw the darker side of their beloved actor. Was Gable truly the charming hero fans believed him to be? Or was he one of old Hollywood's biggest illusions? 8. Tallulah Bankhead, the rebel who refused to play by the rules. Tallulah Bankhead was fearless, bold, and way ahead of her time. With a husky voice and a stage presence that could captivate an entire room, she was impossible to ignore. But Hollywood wasn't ready for someone like her. She openly challenged the moral expectations of the era, refusing to hide her bisexuality or tame her wild lifestyle. She drank excessively, engaged in scandalous affairs, and had no patience for Hollywood's double standards. Her sharp wit and refusal to conform made her a controversial figure, but also a target. The industry labeled her as difficult, and despite her talent, she found herself pushed to the sidelines of mainstream Hollywood. Did Tallulah Bankhead simply live too boldly for her time, or was she punished for refusing to play by Hollywood's rules? 9. Gloria Swanson, the diva who loved power. Gloria Swanson may have played a faded Hollywood star in Sunset Boulevard, but in real life, she never stopped believing she was the queen of the industry. Famous for her extravagant lifestyle, love affairs, and unshakable ego, Swanson was a magnetic yet divisive figure in Hollywood. She carried herself as if she was above everyone else, often looking down on fellow actors and making cutting remarks about those she deemed unworthy of fame. Her career was built on beauty and talent, but her reputation was stained by a string of controversial relationships, including a notorious affair with Joseph P. Kennedy, the father of future President John F. Kennedy. Despite the backlash, she never apologized for who she was. But was Gloria Swanson truly a misunderstood icon? Or was she one of old Hollywood's most arrogant stars? 10. Rita Hayworth, the star Hollywood used and discarded. She was called the love goddess, the ultimate Hollywood beauty, but behind the glamorous image, Rita Hayworth's life was a tragic series of betrayals and heartbreaks. She had 5 failed marriages, each ending in turmoil, scandal, or heartbreak. Men in Hollywood saw her as a prize to be won, rather than a talented actress in her own right. Even the studio system controlled every aspect of her life, from forcing her to undergo painful electrolysis, to alter her hairline, to changing her name from Margarita Cancino to something more marketable. Her most heartbreaking revelation? She once admitted, "Men go to bed with Gilda but wake up with me." The world saw her as a fantasy, but no one wanted the real her. Despite her fame, she was trapped in a cycle of exploitation, leaving her feeling abandoned and alone. Did Rita Hayworth ever truly have control over her own life? Or was she simply another victim of Hollywood's ruthless machine? 11. Barbara Stanwyck, the rebel who changed Hollywood. Barbara Stanwyck's rise from humble beginnings to Hollywood royalty is one of the most extraordinary stories in Tinseltown. But behind her success lay political beliefs and personal decisions that would ultimately divide Hollywood. Known for her powerful performances in classics like Double Indemnity, Stanwyck's right-wing politics often clashed with the more liberal industry standards. She was openly against collective bargaining, something that left a bitter taste in the mouths of many who worked with her. But it wasn't just her political stance that turned heads. Her complicated personal life, marked by a troubled adoption and multiple marriages, painted her as a woman caught between a glamorous public image and a chaotic private reality. Stanwyck was a star of great talent, but did her politics and personal struggles cast a shadow over her legacy? Or was she simply a woman ahead of her time in a world that didn't know how to handle her? 12. Mickey Rooney, America's beloved star who fell from grace. Mickey Rooney was once the epitome of American youth and charm. The nation adored him as the lovable, mischievous boy next door. But behind the curtain of his Hollywood success, there was chaos. His 8 marriages, including several to younger women, and his constant financial troubles often overshadowed his earlier triumphs. Rooney's abrasive personality made him a nightmare to work with, and his once loving fans began to see a different side of him. A man whose personal life was as dramatic as any of the roles he played. Did Mickey Rooney's fall from grace come from his inability to navigate the pressures of fame? Or was it the unforgiving nature of Hollywood, always ready to turn its back on a former star? 13. Robert Blake, the actor with a dark legacy. Robert Blake's career once seemed like it was destined for greatness, but then came the shocking scandal that would forever define his legacy: the murder of his wife, Bonnie Lee Bakley. Blake was acquitted of the crime, but his cold and emotionless demeanor during the trial turned the public against him. It's said that America saw a man with a soul as cold as ice, and that perception was nearly impossible to shake. Despite his undeniable talent as an actor, his reputation was ruined, and his career never fully recovered. Was Robert Blake a man trapped in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or was he simply another victim of Hollywood's brutal need for scandal? 14. Ryan O'Neal, the scandalous star whose life was a soap opera. Ryan O'Neal's name became synonymous with controversy and heartbreak. He was the ultimate bad boy of Hollywood, but it wasn't his acting that kept him in the headlines. It was his tumultuous relationships and public feuds. O'Neal's long-term relationship with Farrah Fawcett was one of the most publicized and most painful of Hollywood's most iconic love stories. The constant drama and high-profile arguments overshadowed his acting career, leaving him known more for his personal life than his professional one. But Ryan O'Neal wasn't just caught in the throes of a complicated love life. His reputation took a massive hit due to his unstable relationships, and he soon became a figure of ridicule in the media. Could he have been redeemed? Or was Ryan O'Neal forever destined to be the bad boy of Hollywood? 15. Fatty Arbuckle, the silent film star with a dark, enduring scandal. Fatty Arbuckle was once one of the biggest stars of the silent film era, loved by fans and praised for his comedic genius. But everything changed after the shocking death of actress Virginia Rappe in 1921. Arbuckle was accused of rape and manslaughter, and though he was ultimately acquitted, the trial destroyed his career. The scandal followed him for years, casting a long, dark shadow over his once bright future. Despite his acquittal, the public never fully forgave him, and Arbuckle's once celebrated career was ruined beyond repair. Was Fatty Arbuckle truly guilty, or was he a victim of Hollywood's unforgiving nature? And how did this dark chapter forever alter the lives of those involved? These stars weren't just hated, they were controversial legends whose stories shook Hollywood to its core. But despite the scandals and betrayals, their legacies continue to captivate us. Were they truly villains, or were they simply misunderstood figures caught in the spotlight of Hollywood's golden age? Behind every glamorous facade, there often lies a web of dark secrets, scandals, and betrayals. The Hollywood stars of the past may have been flawed, but they remain part of the enduring myths that continue to define the industry. If you enjoyed this deep dive into old Hollywood's most controversial figures, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss more shocking stories from the world of entertainment. And tell us in the comments, which of these stars do you think was the most misunderstood? Let's keep the conversation going.